their apology, they can shove their apology up their ass. Hemi Panarin definitely looked like he got his mojo back. He got an assist. I was wrong. Big.
Hey everybody, finally on and happy to be joining you guys. Sorry I was late. That was one of the problems. But
that's on me.
This is but at least this show will have a lot more life in it than that game did. So welcome in everybody. I of course am your host Mark Williams. Happy to be doing this once again, and it's great to have the first game of the season with the final buzzer. You need the host of the final buzzer, Mr. John Filkowski.
Just terrible, lifeless effort, awful start. You figure with the first 3 games of the season being Buffalo sandwiched around 2 games against Pittsburgh and how bad those teams are supposed to be, you could go 2-1, 3-0. Nope, can't even do that. Can't even score a goal on Artur Shilovs.
Yeah. Joke. I mean, they're acting like he was Shelob. And, of course, whenever you need an honest review of a Rangers post-game, we turn to Ranger Central's Evan.
For sure, he should be ashamed.
Yeah, to say the least. And breaking it down with the other half of Ranger Central, here's Matt.
4 words. This team fucking sucks. But yeah, other than that, glad to be back on with you guys, and yeah, let's get into it because there's a lot to discuss from tonight. And there is not a lot of good.
There is a lot to discuss from tonight. Everybody, make sure you like it, share, subscribe to us and Ranger Central.
What was the good?
I don't know if that was. No
the jerseys look nice.
The good was that the game ended. The good was the game that.
I'm not even that high on those. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I thought they looked great. By the way, for everybody that's watching,
I think the collar looks stupid.
I am drinking Nashville Smashville.
We're gonna get a drunk Mark stream.
122 proof.
I have one other thing that was good, and the other good is that, and this applies for all of us on the panel, is we weren't suckers that spent $200 minimum to be in the building for this game, because I feel awful for the fans that did that.
Yeah. Equally on that one, because it's just
$200 to watch a product like that. I feel like Rangers fans are almost like WWE fans. Like, they continue to raise the prices, provide a shit product, continuously slap you in the face by not giving back to you, doing anything to improve the shit slop that you have to watch on TV, and yet you keep coming back for more. Like, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah, and there's only one positive to say about any of that. That if you use the promo code Big Apple Hockey, you can get $20 off your order on SeatGeek. That's the only way to get any positives on it, guys, because today, after all, there was the Rangers lose 3-0 to the Penguins. It was an absolute embarrassment as a game now RB. By the way, welcome to the show. You're saying right here, going to be a long day. Devils are going to go far this year. I don't know about the Devils going far. We'll pump the brakes on that one. But there's just a lot that you go through looking at this team and just trying to. There's not a lot of positives out of tonight. You knew the game was over at 1-0. Justin Brazeau had 2 goals. He was wide open on that first one, and that was the only one that really mattered because that was the only one went on a goalie. And the last thing is JT Miller said they were outplayed the majority of the game. They had some moments. It's only game 1. You know when you say no BS, guys, and I'm going to turn this over to Evan now. You say no BS, and then you give us more BS. I'm thinking there's BS.
I'm going to reiterate about this quote, what I said in the post game that I did. He would have been better off just saying, we sucked. We were put 6 feet under. We continued the bullshit of last year. There are so many other things he could have said, but this sums up this group, and this is why I did not even care for 1 second when JT Miller got the same, because there is nobody in that locker room I take seriously. There's no one at all. And this group is a joke. It just continues over and over again. And I'm just so tired. And the it's one game crowd better be so freaking quiet tonight, because this is game 100,000 with this group. And I'm just so tired of the mental gymnastics to try to justify this slop put together, because every single time you earn the "I fell for it again" award anytime you're trying to jump through the gymnastics and give the positive outlook thinking that things are gonna be different, because this is what you get. You get a group that plays soft. You get a group that doesn't know how to do basic fundamentals like break the puck out, which that has nothing to do with Mike Sullivan's system and adjusting to a new system. This is peewee hockey stuff. You are learning how to break the puck out and doing it at an efficient rate. This team can't even do it at a half good rate. That's how bad they are just at the basic things. So they could change what Chris Drury could change whatever he wants around the edges. It does not matter when you still have the same core guys leading the way who are older versions of themselves, or you dismantled some of it and replaced it with lesser players. And Sean McDonough said it best as well. This bottom six does not score. You have a guy in the broadcast booth that could identify this roster is not good enough, but the general manager can't. And I'm so tired of this shit. And until Chris Drury is gone, I do not care one bit. And I'm not going to take this franchise seriously for a second. I don't care what they do. I don't care what coach they bring in. I don't care what other players they bring in. If Chris Drury is the one making the decisions, I do not care. I do not trust it, because no matter what we have seen, no matter what he does, it's the wrong thing.
Yeah, Evan. So let's let you get some sink some teeth in there, and let's warm up Filk.
I don't know who that person was. It's probably some Devils fan troll that said that I hyped up the Rangers all off season. I don't know what you're watching, but
yeah, I don't know.
That's definitely not the case. I definitely did not hype this team up. I crapped all over them for what they did outside of Gavrikov. But yeah, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel with this team. I don't. And I said this, that you can't have two defensemen in this lineup that don't even belong at the NHL level, like playing regular minutes. Not only that, but you've got Carson Soucy playing about 20 minutes a game when he's awful. He might be the worst defenseman in the entire NHL, like right now. And he's on this team's second pairing because of what, chemistry on a bad pairing that played together in Seattle, where there was zero expectations and they didn't win much. Yeah, that's great logic. That's great logic. But the fact of the matter is that you put together a piss poor defense. And then if you want to do it by like tiers, like there's good to great, or actually, let's just say great with Fox and Gavrikov. And they didn't even play all that great tonight. I'm not going to shell them for it, but they can be a lot better than that. We know there's potential for them to be a lot better than that. And then there's like okay defenseman. There's not even a good tier for this team. Good would be NA. And then there's meh to okay, which is Borgen, and then maybe Schneider. And then there's flaming bag of dog shit on skates, and that's Vakanainen and Soucy. And you have two of those in your NHL lineup playing regular minutes. What do you expect to happen? Like, I don't know how they could have realistically gone into this season. Yeah, these are trolls.
Yeah, no,
we're getting rid
nobody's.
of them now. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're just
Okay.
coming on to troll, then there's
Yeah.
no reason.
Bye.
But no,
Bye.
there's.
Thanks for the views, but bye.
But yeah, we were not hyping up the Rangers all year.
No.
Watch
that's
the video.
Don't
definitely
even
not
give them the
case.
attention. Just ban them and
Yeah, they're all getting bad now. That's fine. But yeah,
However,
I
this is a
definitely
good comment because this goes to what we said before.
Samuskevich looked good tonight. That eases some pain. Might bet him to score every night. Yeah, Samuskevich, I like I said, I think he's going to be incredible. But there's nothing on this team that I'm looking forward to right now. I mean, defense can't make a basic. And I've been talking about this for years. Yeah, thanks for that other comment. I don't know who you are. Don't care. But yeah, you're in here. Thanks. I listen. I think of it this way. They didn't do anything to address fundamental problems that they've had for years. We've talked about the breakouts going back years and years and years. And you put a bunch of slow guys, slow defensemen that can't skate, that are inept, that can't move the puck, and you want them to be able to move the puck. And thank you, Jim. Yeah, these are just trolls, Jim. I don't know what they are.
I would just put them in timeout. That's what I would do.
No, I ban their comments. We're not
Okay.
having that. They're banned permanently. And
Okay.
you can come back in with new names. We'll just ban your new names when you come back. So, but the problem is that you're ill-equipped to play the game that you want to play. It's Sullivan is there's no hesitation. They're slow.
yeah.
Like Evgeny Malkin looked like he was shot out of a cannon. Shot out of a cannon.
I feel bad that Sullivan, it sounds like in this post game that he has no idea what the fuck he's in for.
And the bottom six can't score. Like you brought in Taylor Radish to do what? Taylor Radish looked like a worse version of Taylor Pyatt with the Rangers. Taylor Pyatt was terrible with the Rangers. So it's not even that's not even Lafreniere's fault. Where is Vakanainen there? Where is Schneider? Schneider's the right side defense on that pairing. And he's somewhere near the left side wall.
That's weird to be Phil. Why is he on the left side wall? Why is he on the boards? That should be the left wing right there. Why is Panarin on the inside?
So Lafreniere is the left wing on that line. He shouldn't even be over there in the
He's
first
the
place.
right wing now, because don't they have him set up on the right wing?
That's right. They have him on the I'm sorry. They have him on the right wing because he's back with that line, which shouldn't be together. I thought they were getting away from that line. That line was so bad defensively last year that they continue to go back with that line. I mean, I don't understand it. But he didn't fly the zone, though. His assignment on that play is to get to the point. When you're in a defensive zone face-off, you're in the defensive zone, you're taking the face-off, your assignment is to get to the point. If you are the inside winger there, you take the inside, and then you have the D engage the man, and then you get to the point. It's nobody was in the right place on that play, but that's not Lafreniere's fault. That's the defenseman's fault. Unless that puck is below the goal line, then there's some way there's some defenseman that has to be in front of that net, covering that man. No one did. That's what it comes down to, and it's just and yeah, Anthony, you asked this question I think before. I highlighted it and was going to get to it, but you asked it again. So, Perreault needed to go down to Hartford. And does anybody want Perreault in this just shit show?
No.
I feel bad for Lava already.
Why? Like Lava, they're not counting on to be a top six center. They drafted him to be a middle six type guy. If he develops anything beyond that, that's a bonus. But they're not. Perreault being groomed to be a top line winger. I don't want Perot learning under this crap. It's all garbage. It's nothing to even like. I'm at a loss for words here because I can't see how they could have realistically gone into the season with this roster and thought that they were going to compete. I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, one point that I kind of said last night, and I'm going to throw this down to Matt in a second, is when we were talking about McDavid for some resigning, and then we got on the topic of the Rangers, we're talking about the bottom six, and then we started talking about the top six. I was like, my God, if you don't get anything out of the top six, this team could be really, really bad. They didn't get anything out of the top six tonight. There was nothing. Like, they had the power play, and it wasn't until about 90 seconds in where Lafreniere got a weak shot on net, and then Gila just stirred it away. So, Matt, there isn't really anything to be excited about with this game.
Nope. I mean, you talk about the top six, right? This is what you got out of the top six tonight. You got Artemi Panarin ducking out of hits, ducking out of physical contact. The whole game, by the way, there was not one time where I saw Artemi Panarin actually go and activate himself into a puck battle or into a board battle. Every single time you saw someone coming at him, nope, let me move out of the way. Let me move out of the way because I'm a pussy. Let me do that. You got JT Miller tripping over blue lines, not being able to carry the puck over the red line. You got Mika Zibanejad again, not being able to bury simple chances in front of the net. You got Alexi Lafreniere just skating and coasting out there. Vincent Trocheck, to be honest, I didn't even notice him the whole game. To be honest, like I said, I didn't notice him the whole game. And Will Cooley, again, just didn't do anything that I at least noticed.
He wasn't even physical.
Yeah, he wasn't. And then, I mean, again, then you talk about the bottom six, just awful. You got Matt Rempe skating out there like a headless chicken, just looking to throw hits. Adam Metrum, I guess, was okay for the most part. Sam Carrick was, again, yeah, and then that third line, and listen, this was one of the main reasons, and we were talking about this behind the scenes, Mark. This was one of the main reasons why I wanted Noah Laba to start down in Hartford. Because, again, like, he didn't have a great game per se, but a lot of the things that a lot of the problems that I had with Noah Laba in the preseason, we were seeing them in this first regular season game. And again, I don't think that's all down to him because he's surrounded by ass around him as well. I mean, you got Taylor. We have a fucking vegetable in Taylor Radish on the right wing. Like, what are you supposed to do with that there? And you got Connor Sheary, who, okay, cool, he earned the roster spot through his PTO in the preseason, but again, did he do anything today? Did he look great? No, he didn't. So again, like for me, like with Noah Laba, it's unfair for me to fully criticize him. And yes, like I said, he didn't have a great game, but how can I really tear into him when, like, what is he supposed to do? And again, like I said, this is why I wanted him to start in the AHL, because I wanted him to be surrounded by other good guys like Berard, like Gabe Perreault, let him build up his confidence, and then let him even over-marinate and produce his game even more. Because I'm telling you right now, because who, in the next couple games, who is going to get blamed for this game? It's not the veterans. It's not going to be the top six guys. It's not going to be the bottom six veterans. It's going to be Noah Laba. And I'm telling you right now, it might be next game against Buffalo, or it might be in 2 games from now. You're going to see Noah Laba out of this lineup for Yusuf Parson. And at that point, he should be sent down to Harvard, because there's no point in having a young 3C sit on the bench and only having 5 minutes a night or putting him in the press box. Let him go down to Hartford. Let him work on his game, because right now this whole situation, and like Phil, you brought up with Gabe Perreault. You know, why would I have Gabe Perreault if I'm trying to get him to be a top 6 future all-star player? Why would I get him to learn under these current just useless sacks of shit guys in the top 6? Then it's the same with Noah Laba. Why am I relying on the so-called leaders of this team to get Noah Laba to become that valuable 3C or bottom 6 guy? It just, why?
Mark, I'm gonna send a link in the private chat. I want you to pull up this clip. It's from JT Miller in the post game.
I also want to add, just with the whole bottom 6 conversation, it should say a lot too that you have a guy that was signed to a PTO, and while Connor Sheary had a solid preseason, it speaks volumes about how flawed the roster construction is, that a guy on a PTO won a third line role that easily because your third line and your bottom six is that poorly constructed. Like, what does that say about your general manager? It also says that your general manager is an idiot for giving the goalie $11.5 million to deepen the roster, but that's another conversation because yes, we're losing
that's
game
the conversation
3-0.
that nobody wants to have.
We're losing a game 3-0 instead of losing it 6-0. But again, another conversation. But it speaks volumes when you have a guy like Connor Sheary winning the third line role that easily. And not only that, Taylor Radish was abysmal in preseason, and he's thrown on the third line right away.
Yeah, I don't under.
Yeah. And also,
not that Brett Berard would have made a massive difference, but like,
I'd rather see him.
I'd rather see him there than Taylor Radish, who, I said this last week, said it the week before, said it the week before that. Why did you bring in a guy that doesn't play the style of game that you want to play to be a third line winger? What? Because he scored 20 goals 3-4 years ago in Chicago when he was playing, 15, 16 minutes a game? Come on.
And that's what's more distressing about this. When you really think about it,
goals. No, they don't. But again, you can't pay a goalie $11.5 million to keep the team from losing 3-0 instead of 6-0. There's no point in doing it.
And by the way, just to mention, we were saying this last year. We said there's no point in paying him when you're going to have likely 2 years of a rebuild. This team is going to bottom out. Tonight just kind of convinced me this team is not good enough. And it also convinced me, let me just say this before we bring up the JT Miller quote. Filk, let me read this stat line off to you. 23 shifts, 6 shots, 3 hits, 15 minutes and 59 seconds worth of ice time. What player is that?
Is that JT Miller?
No, that's Alexei Lafreniere.
Lafreniere does nothing. It just honestly, I'm just gonna get a countdown together as to when he gets traded. Yep. Because this is what he's looking to do. This is what he's looking to do. He's looking to get dealt if he continues to play like this.
Yeah, I went into him on my post-game show a lot, and I had people on Twitter getting mad at me because they're like, oh, but if he got power play one time, then he would put up, 80 points or whatever. If he was, I just want to keep going back to this point. If he was really good enough, he would be on power play 1 right now. There's been 4 coaches in his career. None of them have put him on power play 1 for a reason. Because he's not good enough. And like we've talked about ad nauseum, Panarin has rubbed off on him. So because it goes beyond points.
I don't like that at all.
Soft, and he doesn't do anything in his own end. So he could put up 70 points if that's even possible. And I don't care if the context isn't good enough in that regard. And I said that when we were talking about him during the preview stream, I believe, that I was saying that like the context matters with the points from Alexei Lafreniere.
Is it fluff?
And
is it garbage time points? I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
And what is he doing without the puck as well?
See if I can get this. Was it? Yeah, we'll go with this one angle because we don't need to hide everybody's faces. Let's get this one.
JT, how are you feeling after not getting a whole lot of preseason action?
Not great. Like I need to be kind of what I expected. Legs are heavy today. I haven't had a whole lot of reps, but that'll come with time. So I know I'll be better next game as well.
JT, how are you feeling after?
Yeah, and the other quote that he had before, that was the right quote that I was thinking of. But again, it's just game 1. We had our moments. Nope.
So if this guy's not ready and he doesn't have a lot of reps, why is he in the lineup? Like this is Trouba all over again. All over again. You're clearly not ready. Get into better shape and then get in the lineup.
Let me also just say this. Was it either JT Miller or was it Artemi Panarin or both that were neutralized by a Parker Wotherspoon pairing? I don't even know who the other defenseman was. It was Eric Carlson. That's even worse.
I think it was Carlson, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The fact that that's neutralizing them, it's like, what is going to happen against the better teams? Like, I can't even imagine what's going to happen when that Winter Classic, just thinking about that, they're going to get carved up by Florida. It's going to be a disaster. I wouldn't be surprised with Buffalo's speed if they outwork them on Thursday. Would that surprise anyone?
No, at this point, no, nothing is going to surprise me. And this is why I again, I'm going to go back to Igor. I hate I'm trying not to just hijack it and turn it into that, but now you can't. Oh, if they keep playing this way, it won't matter who's in net. So, but you have these contracts that you wanted, losing cool jerseys in a cool venue. I'm not going to fork up any money for any of those jerseys. I don't know, not even knockoffs. I refuse to give money to this team right now at this point. But you went out there and you put this team together, and you had no direction, and now you look like you're going to be really bad. But you still have as a Banijad contract that you have trouble getting out of. You have a JT Miller contract that who the hell? I mean, maybe they retain $2 million a year on that, and they can get rid of him. But you have to retain $2 million,
and you just named him captain, so it's
and
like,
you just named him captain. That's going to look like an even bigger PR disaster. Then you just gave this dumbass general manager a new deal. I'm sorry, but there is just so many bad contracts on this team. So you traded Kako for Will Borden, 17 games in, gave him a $4.1 million deal to be your second pairing right side defenseman when you had Braden Schneider actually playing okay hockey with Keandre Miller. Like, I just don't get what the direction is here. But I tell you right now, I think I'm kind of with the people that say that they could screw up McKenna if they got McKenna.
Yeah, they would put him on the fourth line. And I just want to add to the goalie thing too. It's just like, look at the other side of the ice tonight. You have a team that played the game the right way, and as much as the Rangers played like ass, the Penguins played the game the right way and were able to help a goalie they picked up off the streets get a shutout. You see what happens when you just play the right way in front of your goalie. I know it's a crazy concept, but this group, honestly, like, it's reminding me of the Sharks as they were fading out. Just this group of a bunch of veterans on garbage contracts that just slow and old. It's truly just, I don't even know anymore.
You go ahead, quick.
Gotta earn your ice time.
Yeah, it's.
You know what? You know what the other frustrating part is, because there was so much talk, especially after those last two preseason games where the Rangers got it just dismantled and destroyed, and all we heard was from the positive Peters was, "Oh, it's only preseason, guys." And look, they didn't have JT Miller, they didn't have Artemi Panarin. They are going to be fine. No, and again, I will state this, and we've said it, Evan said it, you've said it, Phil, Mark said it. When you can't execute the basic fundamentals of hockey, I don't want to hear it's preseason, because I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what level of competition it is. You, as a professional hockey player, should be able to take the puck from point A to point B and move the puck up the ice. And I don't want to hear the whole excuse of, "Oh, we didn't have JT Miller, we didn't have Artemi Panarin." No, because I don't know how many of you guys actually watched the Florida Panther Blackhawk game today at 5:00. And I don't know how many of you guys in the chat watched it.
I didn't get you. No.
The Florida Panthers today played without Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk, their two best players, and arguably their two most influential players on their way to back-to-back Stanley Cups. And I don't care about, because people say, "Oh, the Panthers, they only won 3-2. No, if you actually watch the game, the Panthers absolutely dismantled the Blackhawks. They outshot them by double, and if it wasn't for Spencer Knight, that could have easily been an 8-2 game. So tell me, why can the Florida Panthers outplay a shitty Blackhawk team without their two best players and arguably two of the better players in each of their position in the league, but the Rangers, who had this amazing captain in JT Miller and this amazing forward in Artemi Panarin, they can't go out there with a full healthy lineup and a Penguins roster that started a third-string goalie in Arthur Sheelovs and also didn't have Brian Rust in their first line. And they got completely dismantled and destroyed by the Penguins. So tell me, why? And you know what the great thing is about this? And like we were just saying, you're locked into this for the foreseeable future. There's no getting out of this. You're locked into JT Miller. You're locked into Mika Zibanejad. You decided to give Igor that shitty contract. You decided to give Will Borgen a 4-year extension. Where are you going from here? Nowhere. And the worst part is, like we talked about on the stream yesterday, you had an out. You had an out because, like you said, Pat Verbeek, he took Jacob Trouba's shitty contract away from you. You had an out. You could have traded Igor. You could have traded Kreider and got more value back from him. But no. You waited until the absolute last moment to get absolutely no value out of any of these guys. And now we're sitting here with Igor Shesterkin, who's for the next 8 years is going to be being paid $11.5 million, so we can lose 3-0 instead of 6-0. Chris Drury is an absolute disgrace. He should be fired tonight, and he will never, ever, ever get a job in the National Hockey League ever again. And James Dolan is a fucking disgrace of an owner because he allowed this bullshit to continue.
Yeah, and also, but going even back to it, last year, this also extends from Drury never addressing their deficiencies in their loss to Florida, instead running the team back and adding Riley Smith like that was really going to do anything. And when Trouba basically balked and said, oh no, I'm going to, first things first, I'd find out who leaked that trade, because I'd be like, thanks a lot. You're never getting press credentials from us ever again. And then secondly, when Trouba played hardball, Drury should have played hardball right back. Instead, he went into the season with Trouba, who was completely apathetic to the Rangers, and then basically led to them torpedoing the season. And now look at where they are right now. This team is not winning a Stanley Cup. They weren't close to winning the Stanley Cup. They weren't player away. They should have moved on from Shesterkin. I'm sorry. And by the way, I'm also sorry to say this too, because I poo-pooed on people on Instagram last night, or I rained on that parade, whichever one you want to use the metaphor for, where the coaches and players and GMs, they all voted and said Shesterkin was the most talented goaltender. Good. What's it going to do for the Rangers now?
And you know what the worst part about all this is as well? Is this fucking stupid GM was banking on, after this season, oh, Connor McDavid's going to hit the market. Oh, Jack Eichel's going to hit the market, who's apparently close to an extension. Oh, Kirill Kaprizov maybe hits the market. This dumb GM was so convinced and was gearing for years. His entire plan for years, or I don't know if he even has a plan, but his so-called plan for
Does he
years,
look like the guy with a plan?
Fuck no. But his so-called plan for years was to gear up for this free agent class. And now you look like an idiot who pissed all over himself because none of those guys are going to hit the market. And what are you going to do? Where are you going to pivot? Is Kyle Connor your answer? Because Kyle Connor could come here and it's not going to fix everything. I could tell you that for free. Are you getting Adrian Kempe? That's not fixing everything. And this as well. Building through free agency is a loser's game. And that's why this franchise doesn't have success, because this is how they try to build a team. They don't do it the right way. And that's where the frustration comes in the most, because like we've been saying this entire night, you had an out. You had an opportunity to hit the reset button with this group, and they refuse to do it.
I don't understand why they refuse to do it. And I said after they lost to Florida, that was the one thing I wanted to do, was I wanted to rebuild. It just, you identified that group was not good enough to win. Okay, then why go sign Shesterkin the day that you traded your captain away? You paid $350. I would be demanding a refund if I were you. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. I mean, it's just, you have to realize that when you can't get it done with a certain group and they get that close, that they just don't have what it takes. And then you have to move on from that group. And even if you couldn't move Mika Zibanejad, you move Chris Kreider, you don't re-sign Igor Shesterkin, you trade him, you let him go, whatever. Doesn't matter. And then you start removing pieces. You traded Chris Kreider, you got out of that contract, you got rid of Trouba. Then you could possibly open Mika Zibanejad up to leaving New York. And even if he wouldn't leave New York, if he's the best player on your team, you're probably winning the McKenna sweepstakes.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. He's not good enough to carry a team. The problem is that they have an idiot owner who doesn't understand that you have to actually rebuild and develop a farm system to win. He had 2 chances to rebuild in the last 20 years. You want to know what happened with both of them? 1. Jágr and friends. Henrik Lundqvist came along and detoured that one because Jaromir Jágr brought in all of his friends. Jágr had that great 05-06 season, good 06-07 season, but he left after 07-08. And then they went into a little bit of a lull, but they had Lundqvist and they wanted to build around him. Nope.
And now we're
he
reliving the
went
movie.
all the way into 2018, and you were like, "Oh, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna send a letter. Yeah, we're gonna really rebuild." And what do? Months after sending the letter, 14 months after sending that letter, they go out and they sign Artemi Panarin and they trade for Jacob Trouba.
I was going to say 12 months later, they trade for Trouba. And also, to answer Boxing's question in the chat, I don't give a fuck if Mark is playing in goal. If you're going into a rebuild, I don't care who's in goal.
Yeah.
I don't.
It doesn't matter.
We're never gonna talk about the goalie that was. Are you talking about Alexander Georgiev right now? Remember, Georgiev was supposed to. Hey, this Georgiev guy.
No,
I would actually like
takes over if they don't sign Shesterkin. They're
rebuilding. You know what? Now talking about it, I would actually like to see Mark in that. I think that would be a pretty fun idea.
Actually, I was a goalie when I first started
Igor
playing back.
is nowhere near Henrik Lundqvist.
No,
Henrik Lundqvist managed to take 3 teams to the playoffs that had a top pairing on defense of Michael Roosevelt and Marek Malik, and you didn't hear a fucking word from Lundqvist.
Nope.
You didn't hear a fucking word. You know when you heard a fucking word from him? When Derek Stepan told him to calm down and his ass was traded weeks later. Told him to calm down and then he got traded. Just remember that.
The only comparable to Lundqvist is they are building from the net out. It's the only comparable there.
The only comparable. And
because here's the thing here's the thing to keep in mind about Henrik Lundqvist. His numbers didn't dip after he won his first Vezina as much as Igor's has dipped. McDonough said it on the show today. He said his goals against and save percentage have gotten worse every year since the Vezina. Gee, I wish I heard somebody say that before. And here's the other thing, that Shesterkin also doesn't play nearly the amount Lundqvist did. Lundqvist didn't play below 65 games until he got hit in the neck.
They were in a rebuild.
And this is
they're in a rebuild.
They were in a rebuild. I don't know what you're talking about, but 2018
I think he's
a rebuild.
I think he's talking about with the Igor contract. And if you're saying that, then you're missing the context that they should have went into a rebuild. That's the argument we're making. We're not saying that they were in a rebuild. They should have, once Trouba was traded, acknowledged, okay, this group isn't good enough to win. Why are we going to try to build from the net out? We should rebuild right now. That's what a smart team would have done.
They should have not traded for JT Miller.
Yeah.
Yes.
The minute they locked into that Igor deal was the minute they decided that they were going to try to go forward and get back. This is the 90s all over again after the Cup. trying to keep that alive, except they're trying to keep an Eastern Conference Finals berth alive, not a Stanley Cup win. And they're handling it even worse than Neil Smith did in the 90s. And it's going to lead to the Dark Ages 2.0. That's what's going to happen here, guys. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, we're already entering the Dark Ages. And here's the thing also, when you talk about players in the locker room, there has to be the leadership. There has to be the leadership when things change. As I'm looking up right now at Colorado, who's right now leading over LA 3-0. They traded Mikko Rantanen in middle of the season last year. Did they give up? No. They played in the Murderers Row division.
A few pieces.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand how. I'm sorry. I don't understand how anyone can believe that they needed a few pieces to win.
And by the way, let me go back to highlight that again. The best goalie in the playoffs. There isn't going to be a playoffs. I said yesterday I could sell the Rangers on anywhere from winning the division because of
the best
Sullivan.
goalie in the playoffs who doesn't have a Stanley Cup to his name. He's not the best goalie in the playoffs then.
Yeah, then
sorry. Hasek took a lesser Buffalo squad to the Stanley Cup in 1999.
Adin Hill's got a Stanley Cup.
I don't want to hear it. I don't.
And
he's not Hasek. He's not Lundqvist. He's not any of those guys.
And the other thing to also kind of say this is, what are we basing this on? He's the best goalie in the playoffs. His first rounds have been mediocre.
Goal saved above expected. Everybody's going to flash that number up.
Okay.
Henrik Lundqvist's was far better than his. And Henrik Lundqvist's Game 7 numbers were far better than his. There's a reason why he was considered one of the better playoff players.
Henrik Lundqvist's numbers against elimination are far better than his.
Far better.
This isn't the contest.
Lesser teams.
Henrik Lundqvist wins, flawless victory, fatality, all of it. Like this is a joke to even compare Shesterkin to Lundqvist. It's almost a joke to compare Shesterkin to Richter.
I don't know.
So you're like, come on.
It's just the biggest issue for me is that a majority of this fan base looked at the situation of where this roster was and said, and even because a lot of these people lived through the past core, they lived through the Lundqvist years, they lived through 2011 to 2017.
Okay.
And after that, and after the extension.
Thank you for posting this, Boxing Fan, because you just proved our point. If it wasn't for the Panthers, if it wasn't for Igor, the Panthers would have swept the Rangers. Then that means that they were a lot more than a few pieces away.
Yeah.
So you literally just debunked your own argument.
Which, by the way, is again what the Panthers basically said to themselves when they got swept by Tampa.
And also, it's about adjusting the evaluation of your team, because after 23-24, if you were to ask me, I would have said retool, not rebuild. If you were to ask me with the way last season started, though, by December, rebuild.
Yeah. Your only choice was rebuild.
Here's the thing. You gave the goalie $11.5 million. So, and Connor Hellebuck is making $8.5 million. So let's just say, for example, it's even $9 million, $9.5 million, somewhere in that range. You're getting an extra $2 million to $2.5 million of cap space that you could have used to go get somebody else. Now, I know that people will turn around and say, oh, well, do you really trust the general manager to do the right thing with $2.5 million? No, but at least he has a better chance of getting a better player than Carson Soucy to come in and play 20 minutes a game. You can't have that.
In the meantime, by the way, you're talking about trusting, drafting, and developing, and they have a number 1 and number 2 overall draft pick whose stat lines reflect their first 3 years in the league.
They're easily the worst 1 and 2 overall picks in recent memory, though, and no draft picks at any slot are created equal. You got to remember that. Like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a number 1 overall pick. He's nowhere near the player Connor McDavid is. Aaron Ekblad is a number 1 overall pick. He's nowhere near the player that Austin Matthews is. Like, it's every year is different. Like, Jack Hughes and Connor Bedard are 2 different players. Like, the problem is that you can't bank on a goalie being your best player and think that you're actually close to a Stanley Cup. The last goalie that has won a cup as the de facto, hands down best player on his team was Patrick Waugh in 1993.
Yeah.
And he went on an all-time run and won a Conn Smythe. Do you know who the players are in front of him on that team? You know who the star players were in front of him on that team? You want me to go over them?
Go ahead, because I was going to name some, but I'll let you do it.
Vincent Danfus, Kirk Muller, a past prime Brian Bellows, a past prime, well past prime Dennis Savard. His top 2 defensemen were Eric Desjardins and Matthew Schneider. They won because Patrick Waugh went God mode. And God mode, I can't state enough how good Patrick Waugh was in that 93-1. That's one of the best playoff runs ever from any goaltender. Go look up the numbers. They're even staggering for today's numbers. That's how good he was. And you got to remember, you know who they faced in the finals that year? They faced Wayne Gretzky and the Kings. And that was Wayne Gretzky's last 40-point playoff performance.
Yeah, by the way, James, you're right about that. If Jiggy would have won, he would have been in that conversation as well.
Yeah, he would have.
I love the David Ayers comments.
You got to remember, he was playing with illegal shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Those pads were literally banned right after that. So,
but we're still kind of getting away from what the real problem is. The Rangers have stars that aren't stars anymore, like Mika Zibanejad, and empty calories of stats like Artemi Panarin. Panarin had 89 points last year. Did you really feel like he had 89? 2 years ago, he had 120. You felt like he had 120. He was on fire. But now it's like again, I point out the game against Calgary last year. Scored a goal early on, yay, and then disappeared the rest of the game. Like, what happened? Yeah, Lonnie, you're right. That is the last time a Stanley Cup team won.
No Canadian team has won since 1993.
But
and no, you're not getting rid of.
Anthony had the same thought that I did to this comment because
what
are you gonna do? So you're gonna trade these guys for what? Because teams are lining up, I'm sure, to get all these guys right now. So you're going to get what? You're going to get garbage in return and then build through free agency. Then you're in the same predicament that we've been talking about this entire time, that you can't build through free agency. It's just that simple.
The most frustrating thing about this is it feels like we're in an endless cycle. And that cycle doesn't lead to anywhere. It's just right back to where we always end up. Because eventually one day, we're going to get out of these shitty contracts. It's going to be a long time for now, but one day from now, we're going to get rid of all these contracts. But tell me, do any of you guys on here and any guys in the comment section, when the Rangers finally get out of this, bad things of bad contracts, do you expect them to rebuild the right way? Because I don't.
It depends if by some miracle Dolan's not the owner anymore. That's the only chance.
That's not going to happen because he already said he's not selling anytime soon.
Yeah, so he's not selling anytime soon. He's not.
And throw it out the window then. Yeah.
Because for some, because for some reason this
Who's
franchise
taking them though? Who's taking them? Who is taking Lafreniere right now?
And also
taking Borgen at $4.1 million for another 4 years after this.
Carson Soucy's worth what? Like a 7th round pick these days?
Carson
at most
is worth my
future considerations.
And we traded a third.
Worth my left nut. Nothing.
Filk, your left nut's worth a lot more than Carson Soucy. I hate to break that news to you.
No one is going to pay to get Lafreniere. You know what you're going to get for Lafreniere? You're going to get another player that's in a similar situation, that it's in a change of scenery, that maybe might need a new contract, and you're going to get nothing for him. It sucks. Yeah, I see the comment you're laughing at. But it's terrible. You're all right. So you're not getting anything of significance for Lafreniere. That's what you're not getting. You're not getting it. You're not understanding it. You're not getting anything for him because no team is going to willingly give up big time assets to go get him. And if you think that you're going to trade him as part of a package for like an elite young player,
like Brady Tkachuk, no, it's not.
And what did they get for Chris Kreider? A 2nd-round pick and a middling
Casey
prospect?
Tarrant, like
Yeah.
Carey Terrence? That's what your idea is of a return?
I mean, and Trouba was basically for Vakanainen, who barely is an NHL defenseman.
And then just the fact that Drury got them to take that contract was just great on him. No, no. I'm not talking about what they have. I'm talking about what are you going to get for Alexis Lafreniere. If Alexis Lafreniere's return is a 2nd-round pick and a middling prospect, then what are we doing here?
I don't even think that's the return because of that contract alone. If Capo Caco, and I know you could argue Lafreniere is a better player, but Capo Caco, who still had the 2nd overall pick pedigree, and he was on a sweetheart deal, if that fetched you 2/3 and a 3rd pair defenseman, Lafreniere is not returning you anything good with that contract.
No, he's not a devil's troll. He's been in our chats for a very long time.
Yeah, no. He's just a believer. That's all.
He's a believer, and that's fine. You can be a believer, but it's. I honestly, you're not really getting a lot for him. No, I don't think anybody wants to take on a $7+ million contract for a player that looks like he could bust. Look at Keandre Miller. The Rangers didn't want to give him that contract. I don't understand why Carolina did, but I mean, Byram is the return.
Byram's not moving the needle enough, though.
Yeah, that's the problem that you got. I mean, I do think he's right. Now, by the way,
I mean, and then who's moving into the top 6? Taylor Radish? Like, that's the other thing. As bad as Lafreniere is, who's replacing him then in that forward group? In the top 6?
I think the thought then is that you bring in the young guys to move up. But
I'm actually with Sharp on this. Why did you have to turn around and marry to Will Borgen and give him that contract? You could have flipped him at the deadline and gotten, I don't know, maybe a 3rd, maybe a 2nd for him. If you weren't going to get a 2nd-round pick for Capo Caco, then turn Will Borgen into that. And people are always looking for right shot defensemen come playoff time.
That was my whole thing with the Caco trade. And listen, I get that not a lot of people like that trade, but the Rangers were at a point where they tanked Caco's trade value so low. And then even after the comments he made about lack of ice time, like, you were not getting anything of value for Caco. And I was okay with the Borgen pickup because for me, my point of view was always, okay, you're getting this 3rd pair guy in Will Borgen. He's had moments where he's looked okay, but for the last couple, I would say the last year and a half, he hasn't been so great. My thing was, okay, that you have 2 options. One, either he comes in here and he turns it around a bit and you could reflip him for, a couple picks or maybe even a better pick come trade deadline time. Or 2, if he sucks, you let him walk in free agency, go buy, see ya, have fun somewhere else, finding a contract. But never in my mind did I think, oh, yeah, let's lock up this guy who's at best been a borderline 2nd-line, 3rd-line player to a 5-year deal with a $4.1 million cap hit. Oh, and then on top of that, give him a no-trade clause.
Yeah.
You did not have to do that. And again, Cody Cece, because I just looked this up now. Last year, he was. I think they traded him for. Yeah, they traded him and Mikael Granlund for a 2025 first round pick and 2025 conditional third round pick. So Granlund probably fetched the first round pick, but for Cece, okay, third round pick, he probably.
Leroy Jenkins!
Leroy Jenkins!
Oh, man. I can't believe I just saw Leroy Jenkins reference in 2025 in the freaking chat. Oh, shit. That's amazing. That's probably the highlight of my night right now. Well, that's the Yankees. Thank God for the Yankees tonight. But
like I said, you could have at least gotten a second round pick for Will Borgen, and instead you locked him up to this just terrible contract extension.
yeah, I don't get it. He could have turned around and turned that into an asset. And I said that when they got him, but he had to go lock him up and double down on a bad trade that he made because he can't admit a mistake. What I don't get is that he admitted the mistake with Nemeth and dealt 2 second-round picks to get rid of that contract, but he couldn't admit a mistake with Susie or Borgen? I don't get it.
Well, I hope they're going to get used to running Fox and Gavrikov into the ground. This is also why I said pairing them together is
$7 million, over $7 million in cap space that you could have done something with.
Yeah.
It's $7.35 million in cap space. And then if you didn't sign Shesterkin, that's another 11.5. So that's over $19 million in cap space that you could have used on other players.
Yeah, and then on top of that, not re-signing Juuso Parson when you clearly saw from last year that he was an unmitigated disaster. Bringing back Eurovakanainen, who again was a disaster after the trade, and then again, why are you spending U.S. currency on Taylor Radish when you have guys like Brett Berard in the system already who actually play the type of hockey that Mike Sullivan wants to? It's just
I don't understand the Radish contract at all. Like I honestly think this is Taylor Pyatt 2.0.
But it goes back to again like what we were talking about through this whole stream, and like what we were saying on the last stream as well. There is no direction. All Chris Drury is doing right now is he's throwing shit at a wall and hoping something sticks, and nothing is sticking right now.
The worst part is that he's not even fighting for his job.
Yeah, that's the worst.
He just got an extension, Nate, and I knew they were doing it because they wanted to let the players know that they're not going to get away with pulling mutiny like they pulled last year. But holy fuck, why couldn't you have just, instead of it's sort of like punishing the child that the child that reacts and retaliates instead of punishing both children. Like you and your younger brother, your younger brother hits you, and then you go and you hit him back, and your parents find out that you hit him, and instead they punish you and not him, when they should be punishing both of you. Should have gotten rid of both Drury and the assholes who caused all that mutiny.
Yeah. And instead they decided to, like Chris Drury does with everything, the owner decided, let's double down on Drury as well. Since Drury loves to double down on everything. I don't get it. And the problem is, like Matt said, it's just like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel with this shit? For the foreseeable future, at least, because
the one thing they could have done.
Blends, but they tried this last year, and then he cried and went to Drury, and then he was back in the lineup a game later.
It wasn't. Forget about even that. What did he get? Like 2 less minutes of ice time in a game, and he cried.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. Like this guy just looks like he's just. Again, Wants to be on a beach in Ibiza DJing.
Hey,
Just
guys.
doesn't care.
Guys, lay off Mika. He scored 5 goals in a game once. We want to look. We want to be a little bit more positive. We don't want to be negatives. But this is kind of so far. This game has confirmed everything that we've been saying for the entire summer. We said it in the season preview. We said it in the season wrap up. We said it a couple different times, and now look at
I
where
wish
they
I
are.
could say this, but like,
No, I'm not there.
It's a carryover. It's a carryover from last year.
And like I said at the start of this entire thing,
I know what you're laughing at, Matt. I know it's this one right here.
no, it was the comment above it.
Yeah,
Just a
no, we're
rant.
not highlighting that one. Sorry.
but like I said at the start of the show here, it's like I would be willing to, if there was a new GM, new players in, and they were going in even more of a retool direction, I'd be willing to say, okay, let's give them a chance. But it's the same shit we've seen for years with the same players, and they're older and slower now. What is the reason I should believe things are all of a sudden going to turn around?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see it, and not only that, but I was with my friend watching the game and then watching the Yankee game at the same time, and then he asked me, he's like, why do you think that this team can't be any different, or can be better and everything like that? Why the negativity? And I told him, I was like, I saw this team win a President's Trophy and get to an Eastern Conference Finals, and this team is nowhere near that team.
Yeah,
and
hands down.
they're not even in the same universe. Like, this is terrible.
Like Steven had the meme tonight, going with what Jay Lewis is saying right there, of Noah Lab is one of the best players tonight. And it's the guy smiling. And then Noah Lab
with a lot of the
players.
same lazy plays that I saw last year. And my Norris prediction looks like shit right now. I'll tell you that. I don't know what I was thinking when I said that.
But
this is not really a bold prediction, though. I just said it earlier on, that if he doesn't have a good season, he's probably going to get dealt. But there's not a lot of takers for a guy that is being paid based on potential that may never hit that potential. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And that doesn't really align with your comment from before boxing, where you're saying, let's see what the season brings, which, again, like, unless it's just like magic pixie dust, oh, we're a good team now. I don't see, there's no world. There's nothing like you could sell me on. I want someone that genuinely sits here and believes in this team to give me a legit reason why, because I have not heard anything other than it's early. It's one game. Like, with what, luck, trust, and pixie dust? Again, maybe then, but that's about all you got for material there. Just some Dave's comment.
by the way, LA is on the board.
Yeah, cool for LA. Right? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and this is what I've said this before, and I made this comparison. He pulled a Pedersen. Oh, geez, no, we're not getting into that. Nope.
But again, this team's mantra was no BS, and all you see is
BS.
BS.
All you see,
and especially that they're down 1-0 to Pittsburgh. There still seems to be no sense of urgency.
What is that spaz out moment going to do, though? What is that going to do? They don't have the talent like those teams had.
To use the horse racing metaphor, you got to know when to go to the whip. And there are people that kept on saying that Jacob Trouba's helmet throw was a big inspiration in a game that they were down and lost. I believe it was 5-1.
So the
Blackhawks. Yeah, and then they ended up beating St. Louis after that in overtime.
It saved Gallant's job for a little bit, and then they went to the playoffs. And what did they do? They quit on Gallant in the middle of the friggin' playoff series.
In a playoff series that they were winning.
They were in it. they were winning, they were in it, and even when the Devils tied it up, they still had chances to win that series, and they didn't show up in Game 7. So I mean, I don't know what a helmet throw is going to do for a team that is just deficient in about every area. I said this I said this, what was it, yesterday? And I think I might have said it last week as well. But the only way that this team is going to make the playoffs is if the top 6 goes off. The top pairing is nearly perfect for 25 to 30 minutes a game. And then Igor plays like 2022 Igor. That's it. That's the only way this team is making the playoffs. Because the bottom 6 is no, he did not. He did not. Stop.
No.
That's revisionist history. They didn't even shoot at the right places on him. They kept shooting into his chest. So
just like
She loves tonight.
every shot.
Tonight.
Mika Zibanejad, how many shots did he take directly into that Penguins logo? Like, did anybody have a counter on that?
Plenty from Zibanejad, I can tell you that.
You know what the worst part and the funniest thing about this game was, right? You guys remember before the game actually started and ESPN went into the locker room and they showed Mike Sullivan doing that whole pregame speech, and he's like, "You got to play the Ranger way." I mean, to be fair,
what
they
the
did play
hell is the Ranger way?
They got outplayed by a team that's a lot worse than them, so they played the Ranger way.
I'm not gonna.
And this was the other thing. This is why, like me and Evan said last year after Peter Laviolette got fired, we said that it doesn't matter who they bring in as the next coach, as long as Chris Drury is making the decision, and as long as a lot of these players are staying here, because it doesn't. You can't coach shit. You can't coach players that don't want to be coached properly. You can't coach players that don't want to actually buy in and play the right system and do what it takes to actually compete and to win a Stanley Cup. It's not going to happen.
But it started from the top and it's trickled all the way down. It's the way the old stars look at everything.
I wish we could have Shorzy in that locker room because they don't hate to lose.
Yeah.
I mean,
This game was fucking terrible.
I was gonna say I remember after the year, I think we ranked some of the worst losses. I remember this being up there.
Right up at the top.
Oh, there was a couple of Buffalo ones, and they play Buffalo on Thursday. So, are we in for another effort like they gave in Buffalo last year? What was it after the Four Nations break when they got the freaking doors blown off them by Buffalo?
5-0 in the first.
Yeah, that was terrible. I was actually same place I was tonight was where I was when that game happened. I remember watching that there, and I was like, turn it off. I was like,
but it still wasn't as bad as the game before Christmas. That was
the Devils game. I don't know about. I don't know. It's right there with it.
Bilk, they did not care. I think they had 13
they
shots.
They didn't care in the Buffalo game either. What's the difference?
I don't know. But Jay's on this one. That's why there really is. You're gonna have to fire the entire front office.
I mean, the fact that sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say that the fact that they were allegedly so high and they've been scouting Carson Soucy and Juuso Parssinen and Will Borgen for years tells you all you need to know about this pro scouting department.
Yeah, this scouting sucks.
And you know what the worst part is? I forgot where I saw, but it was on Twitter. And I forgot if it was from, I think it might have been from Ball Panarin. But he said that the Rangers front office consists of 2 active pro scouts. How are you a professional NHL franchise and you only have 2 active pro scouts in your front office? It's a fucking embarrassment. No wonder why you can't actually find good talent around the league.
I think Dan might be right here. It just seems like there's just the country club vibes that were around during the dark ages are back. I can tell you that right now because this is the way it felt. The only thing I need is a Bobby Holik coming out and saying, why did they pay me $9 million a year to be a first-line center when I'm not a first-line center.
And
That's what I need right now.
And this is why, even when they got Miller, and it was just like, okay, let's see what he does in the locker room and everything. It's like, to me, it already seems like he's being more of a follower than a leader.
I don't know about that yet. I'm still gonna. It's too early for me to definitively say that. While I think there's a possibility you could be right, I think it's too early. I don't know what's going on yet behind closed doors there. He's been captain for one game, so I can't jump to that conclusion yet. But I'll tell you right now, I've always said that they brought him in as the first in a long line of culture-changing moves. And the culture has not changed whatsoever at this point.
If anything, it's gone the other direction.
I don't know what direction they're going in. And that's why I'm not going to be optimistic about this team. Because I don't know what direction this team is going in. This team is a bad month or two from not being a playoff team again. And are they going to pull that January from last year on nonsense where they play like they give a shit for a month and they get out of the basement and then they screw themselves out of a lottery pick? I don't. Yeah, I feel like it could be over by Thanksgiving because I just this year more than anything, I just don't trust the defense. Like Jay's right. Susi and Vakanainen are not NHL defensemen. I've said that several times during this stream. Borgen is a bottom pairing guy. Evan and Matt have both said that in this stream. Like, you're not winning when you don't have more than two legitimate top four defensemen in your top four. You do not have anyone else that is a legitimate top four defenseman on your team. Your bottom six cannot score. So now you're overly reliant on a top D pair and a top six and a goalie. So for everybody that talks about Shesterkin's deal and, oh, he's the greatest and this and that, yeah, that's great. They lost 3-0 instead of 6-0. You guys happy? I hope you are.
It wouldn't surprise me if NWire Blends is right with his comment because that's just how soft this locker room is. That they would be the type to get all whiny about that.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's a possibility.
It wouldn't shock me knowing this group. I mean, it's like we talk about every single time. The littlest things hurt their feelings.
Well, then let me tell you something. I would not be shocked if halfway through the year we're already hearing rumors that the players have quit on Mike Sullivan. It would not surprise me because we know Mike Sullivan's a hard ass. And even there was an interview, I believe, on 32 Thoughts with Elliot Freeman, and they were asking Crosby about what's Mike Sullivan's biggest attribute. He expects you to work, and we already saw him in what was it, in training camp? I believe during one of the first few days where they were doing a drill, and they were started off like shit, and they were mishandling pucks, misplacing passes, and he blew the whistle and he tore him a new asshole. I'm telling you right now, I'm sure they didn't like that because nope, it's not the country club mentality thing that we're all accustomed to. So listen, I would not be shocked, like I said, if we're already hearing rumors that there's already discourse between the top players on this team and Mike Sullivan.
That meanie pants.
Question: who's the laziest player you could think of in the NHL over the last 15 years, or at least has the reputation for being the laziest player?
Are we counting like in terms of how long they played for? Because there's a couple of guys that had short careers and they were deemed as like lazy.
There's a guy that's like an Iron Man. That's who I'm referring to right now.
Oh, I mean, for me, I would say like Nail Yakupov. He's up there.
Okay,
Are you talking about Kessel?
I'm talking about Phil Castle. Look at what Phil Kessel did underneath Mike Sullivan. Problem is the players. Mika Zibanejad, goodbye. I've been beating this drum for a year. They can't get rid of him fast enough, and they can't get rid of Artemi Panarin fast enough.
I can't attribute Kessel to Sullivan when he was having 80-point seasons in Toronto.
But he had 80-point seasons. But what did they do with Sullivan? He was a winner.
Well, yeah, because he had Crosby and Malkin around him.
That also helps.
And he was on the third line with.
That's the thing. Steven brings this up a lot. He's like, Sullivan's got 2 cups, but he had prime Crosby and Malkin and Letang.
Yeah, but so did Mike Johnston, who was awful before Sullivan.
Mike Johnson was an awful coach, and that's why he hasn't been in the NHL since as a head coach.
And like I said, though, Dan Bilesma is a horrible coach, and he won a cup.
He won a cup. This is like saying
he won a cup that Michel Therrien basically got him to.
Or Trent Dilfer, won a Super Bowl. He's a great quarterback. No, Trent Dilfer is widely considered the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl ever.
Yeah.
It's and for someone who asked about Victor Mancini, I hate to tell you this, but Victor Mancini played 16 games with Vancouver last year and registered 3 points. And then he played another 7 with Abbotsford, their AHL team. Victor Mancini is not the player that any of you think he is. I'm sorry. He's a nice little guy that could maybe come in a pinch and play well. Maybe he's a 6D, but that is not a player that I would go crying spill beans over. If he develops into something, great. But as of right now, this very moment, he's not that great.
I just think fans are caught up in last year's preseason and the fact that when he returned to MSG as a Canuck, he XP formed the fuck off this Rangers team.
Yeah, I don't. No, that's somebody that I would not want to see again in an NHL game. He could never make it now just because he was too slow. But he was one of the biggest dirtbag players that I've ever seen. And I think he still might even be in jail for armed robbery. So,
by the way, Mark Rippon won an MVP of the year, so that wouldn't be that year. And it was Mark Rippon. I know he said Mike Rippon. It's Mark Rippon. By the way, who did the Rangers trade Artemi Panarin to? The short answer on that is
the highest bidder.
Yeah, the highest bidder, whoever wants him the most.
The highest bidder.
Because he's got a full no move clause. So that's it.
I remember being at the Ranger Islander game in 2004 when he punched Jim Cummins' face in. He bloodied Jim Cummins up. I went to all 6 games that year. The Rangers won all 6. And he absolutely he punched Jim Cummins' face into a pulp. It's one of the biggest beatdowns I've ever seen in a hockey fight. So that was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Chris Knobloch, look at what he's doing. Lonnie, I'm sorry, but that guy is a Connor McDavid merchant if I've ever seen one.
How many times, I said,
that got proven in the playoffs.
And like I said, how many times do we need to keep saying, doing both revisionist history and keep saying it's the coach? I already had people in my post-game comments saying that Mike Sullivan's the problem. I'm like, how many times are we going to do this shit with blaming the coach?
No.
I'm not going to blame Sullivan for anything. I don't care if he truly does fuck up. This is all on the players. Like, I'm so tired of doing this.
And the general manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something dreadfully wrong behind the scenes there. Dreadfully wrong. That this team continues to come out and put out terrible efforts. Yeah, Maurice was 10 steps ahead of Knobloch in the finals. By the way, Jay, Malakhov and Kamensky were definitely lazy.
Yeah.
I don't think Panarin's as lazy as those guys, but Panarin just – again, this Pittsburgh team, so weak defensively. So weak. How do you not attack the middle against them? They didn't even try to get to the middle. They just kept firing shots from outside. It was like watching Rick Nash when you know that he was coming back from a concussion because he wouldn't drive to the net, wouldn't drive to the middle, wouldn't do anything.
You know, that was, thank you brought that up, Phil, because I totally forgot about that. The other worst part about this game was, I believe it was after the second period, the second intermission. I think it was Leah Hextall. She said that she was talking with David Quinn in between periods. And he said that David Quinn said the biggest problem that he identified with this game so far is that the Rangers are forcing too many things to the middle. I'm like, bro, what game are you watching? Everything's to the perimeter. Neutral zone play, offensive zone play. I'm like, you can't get to the middle because, one, you're not good enough to attack the middle, and two, you're not fast enough to attack the middle. So spare me the bullshit. David, that's another fucking clown on this coaching staff. And
oh my God, can we talk about the fact that he
wanted this guy back, and he was back.
He got a standing ovation today, apparently, during the introductions. Like, what are we doing here?
Boy, yeah, people wanted this guy gone for the longest time, and now all of a sudden people are giving him a standing ovation for it? No, this guy was not good. He's not an NHL level mind. Get him out of here.
Fucked up numerous players, but it's like, hey, you're back because Mike Sullivan brought you here. Standing ovation.
Yeah, which shout out to Steven, because if it was for nepotism, Steven wouldn't have any philosophies.
The Ryan Spooner interview with Cam and Strick, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago? Like after he got fired, was so telling about him. Yeah, you just hire all of your friends, pretty much. I mean, yeah. Give points.
There's 3 straight comments there that I laughed
at. You get
at.
more points if you shoot from further out. Oh no, I'm sorry. They started watching pro beach hockey games and think that they get 3 points from scoring from far out. That's why they're playing that.
No,
way.
They think the Penguins logo on the jerseys, how you get a goal.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, this is very true. I laughed at this comment too, that Ranger fans have memory problems.
Yeah, I did point out, I remember when Mark Messier hit Eric Fischow's logo and it somehow went in the net. So
you want to know the biggest example of Ranger fans having memory problems? The fact that they tried for about 20 years to build around a goaltender, and then it didn't work again, and they had a chance to get out of it, and they were all championing to give Igor Shesterkin this insane amount of money when you have 20 years of proof that it didn't work. And that is Ranger fans having memory problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yes, especially after Hank,
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to build around a goaltender again. You just didn't learn your lesson. You didn't learn your lesson. And here you are. And you have this great goaltender that's going to stop you from losing game 6-0 instead of 3-0. Awesome.
Awesome. I can't wait for that first game when the Rangers have Jonathan Quick in that, because let me tell you, that's going to be a bloodbath. They are going to get destroyed.
And that's going to come up quickly in the schedule, no? Because they have a back-to-back, I believe, like really early on.
Yeah.
This weekend.
On Saturday they play Pittsburgh, and then they play the Capitals on Sunday.
Oh, boy.
Like the numbers for Jonathan Quick at the end of last year were pretty bad.
Like, he looked really bad. And then he did not look good in the preseason either this year.
No.
No, but we had to bring him back on a more expensive deal than he was on previously as well.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Another thing that I really don't understand, and I don't get this. Why are there no games on Friday night? The NHL has no games scheduled for Friday night.
That, and I don't understand why, but
it's your opening week and you don't have any games scheduled.
Your opening week in a season when you have a condensed schedule.
Oh, I didn't even realize you meant in the league. I thought you meant with the Rangers, who have like no Friday games at all. But yeah, great.
Goalie can't score, but yes, the goalie also can't win you a game. That's why you don't build around the goalie. You build a great defense and you build up the middle. Look at every winner
Yes.
that has won in the Cap era.
Yeah, Dave, the NHL way. Let's schedule the games when there's college football and NFL football going on instead of a Friday night when there's nothing else on. Good idea.
Yeah, and a lot of those wins came in 2013-14 when the team was better in front of them.
Yeah.
Goalie
And-
is literally a position that depends on the play of the team in front of him unless you are an exception to that rule. And there have been very few exceptions to that rule in the history of this sport. Dominic Hasek is like the guy. Even if you want to talk about the great Ken Dryden, how great he was. Ken Dryden played with no less than 8 Hall of Famers in front of him on his team for every year of his career. Every year.
Dave, I hope to get to see that next Sunday.
No, Kevin Weeks didn't take the Panthers to the finals.
No.
He was one of 2 goalies that went to the finals for Carolina in 2002, and they lost to Detroit because Detroit had a team that now has 10 Hall of Famers on it now that Pavel Datsyuk has been elected into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So
You're
All
not
right.
going to win building around a goalie. It doesn't work. It does not work.
No.
Is that old New York Rangers fight song?
I think it is.
Yeah, I want to be a New York Ranger. I want to live a life of danger. Yeah, that's not a song to play
Yeah,
tonight.
no.
I'll tell
I'm
you
in
that.
danger when I watch this team play. That's the only time there's danger.
Yeah, literally. I feel like I'm Ralph Wiggum. I'm in danger on the bus, and he's the only one on the bus.
Well, that's in.
Yep,
That was when.
Misfits.
By the way, here's the
That's,
funny part about
it was,
that.
Mikhail Graves era Misfits.
Here's the funny part about that. That line was actually in a Family Guy episode. That was when Homer and Peter were having the fight in Springfield. So, and that happened on a Family Guy.
Yeah, Radish is just terrible. I don't think again. He's Taylor Pyatt 2.0. He might as well be Taylor Pyatt. He just looks the same way. It's just a big guy who can't skate, who doesn't fit. Like I don't see. I don't see why they signed him. I don't.
I said it before. I think the Rangers should have went and tried to get Matthew Darsh and hire Jeff Halpern instead. And instead, now they're locked in with a superstar head coach, because that you might as well just call him that, and a veteran-laden team that they're going to have to tear down this year, and a goaltender that they have signed until he's 38 years old at $11.5 million. But the cap's going up, so what? Just again.
I mean, listen,
go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I mean, even like you said, Mark, like you said, Darsh was right there for the taking. All you had to do was fire Chris Drury. It was as simple as that, and you had every reason to, coming off the disastrous shit show that was last year. But even then, from Matthew Darsh's perspective, if you're picking between the Rangers and Islanders, like for me, like just looking at both situations of where the roster is in terms of context of how old the roster is, and in terms of long-term contracts. I mean, to me, sure, you could have thrown more money at him, but if I'm Matthew Darsh and I'm picking them just evenly off context, I'm picking the Islanders every day because 1, better farm system, and then 2, they have much more flexibility, and then they're a much more younger squad than this upcoming Rangers team is. And let me tell you, obviously, Darsh is not really proven yet in terms of being a GM, but give him a couple years because, and especially looking at the Islanders' prospect system coming up. They're going to be a good team in a couple of years, and
They're already leaps and bounds out of the Rangers.
No, yeah, I was about to say no, Jay. It's Kevin Adams. It's still Kevin Adams.
He's giving a run for his money, though. I mean, him, Sweeney, Ken Holland. just shows you though,
Bad
and like
deal.
Steven, it just shows you, and like Steven's brought this up before many times on here. It's to get an NHL GM job, you don't have to be good at it. You just have to know people. You have to be friends. That's it, and you get an instant pass. Because there's so many shitty general managers and so many shitty executives in the sport. It's like I said, hockey's a boys' club. You don't have to prove anything.
Well,
Just-
that part is definitely true. The boys' club. I would definitely agree with you on that
Yeah.
because it just I don't understand how David Quinn has a job. Again, like I said, if you go listen to the Ryan Spooner interview with Cam and Strick, like the shit he says in that interview is unbelievable. Like it baffles me. Like no stick handling on a 2-on-1. No stick handling.
Like we're peewees.
He's the Eric Chavez of hockey.
Like he coaches out of a Hockey for Dummies book, and he couldn't win in the NCAA with Jack fucking Eichel. Like one of the best players that has ever come through the NCAA, and a good team around Jack Eichel too. Evan Rodriguez was on that team. I mean, I don't understand how guys like that continue to get jobs. I don't.
And we should run the front office because we would have done a better job with that.
It's terrible.
Like Emery is not a good draft pick as of right now. You got to wonder what he was thinking with Brendan Othman when, what was it? Svechkov was the center that could have been something.
Svechkov was there. Wyatt Johnston was there.
Wyatt
We're
Johnston.
not going to take Wyatt Johnston. We're going to you know what? The crazy part is that they had access to Wyatt Johnston watching Will Cooley's development in Windsor. He was his fucking line mate.
Mm.
There was no way that you could have not seen how good Wyatt Johnston was if you were actually scouting your own prospect and watching his development and watching his games.
They did the same thing. And by the way, keep Malcolm Spence away from this team. They did the same
I
thing
don't want
when they
up anywhere near this team.
Nils Lundqvist. Like this is almost the opposite of what the Islanders had to deal with.
Nils Lundqvist was another Gordy Clark special.
Yeah.
Smartest man in the room. Thought he was on to the next coming of someone. He probably thought he was the next Erik Karlsson. Never said those words, but he probably thought it. How do you just? I don't get it. Guy was right there. Right there, and you had to have been watching. Like, what were you doing then? Were you just sitting there and on your phone while the guy was playing?
By the way, just two things real quick. One, took McElrath instead of Vlad. Check out Filk's Rangers What Ifs. That's a big video. And the second thing, guys, I'm gonna run off right here. I'm gonna prepare for tomorrow's show in the morning. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me and these guys. I leave you to keep going.
We'll probably go like another 5-10 minutes. Like it's getting really late.
Take it easy, boys.
Yeah, take care, Mark. Yeah, really, this is it. I'm gonna move Evan off just because when he comes back, he'll let us know. But it's you can't have guys like Jed Ortmeyer and Tanner Glass in those slots, and Mark Stahl too. It's another one. Like Mark Stahl, they gave him a job immediately after he retired. What does he know about player development? What exactly does he know? And before you sit there and you tell me, well, how do you know he knows nothing? Well, he went straight from an NHL career right after retirement and had no experience in the field. What experience is he going to have in the field? How much time can he spend in his off seasons doing that?
And then it just goes back to the whole Wyatt Johnston point. It's like, cool, they could have drafted Wyatt Johnston, but they probably would have just fucked up his development anyway. Good for him. He went to Dallas. He went to a good situation. He went to a good, prospect development system, and he's turning out to be the player he is now. So, and like I said, there's no guarantee. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Wyatt Johnston, when you compare it to Brandon Hoffman, Wyatt Johnston clears him in every single category. But again, like I said, if Wyatt Johnston came into the situation, again, there's no guarantee that he would have developed into the player that he was right now. Again, it comes down to the fact that this team just, again, they don't know how to develop prospects, and this is why, like I talked about, with the endless cycle of going out of these things, it's like I said, cool. Eventually, one day, this group and this franchise will be out of their shitty contracts that they're in right now. But like I said, and especially with James Dolan being here for the foreseeable future as well, when they come into the next so-called rebuild, do you trust them to actually execute that properly? Because one, what they'll do is they'll just get a couple prospects and they'll fuck up the development like they did with Lafreniere and Kako. And then two, what Dolan will do is he'll see a couple big-time free agents hit the market and he'll be like, ooh, yay, let me go get him. Let me splash the cash here. When no, again, realistically, if you want to do this correctly, and like how every single team in professional sports shows you how to do a proper rebuild, you have to be patient. You have to take your time. You actually have to put the actual resources into your young farm system and develop them the proper way. Because if you don't, you're going to end up at the spot that the Rangers are here right now. Again, they've made a couple deep playoff runs, didn't win anything, and they're stuck here now with the shitty aging core that's locked up for the foreseeable future. And like I said, unless those things change, one big cycle. Because eventually we'll be back here again, whether it be 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's sad. Like there's no level at which they are overly successful at developing these types of players. Like they didn't develop Adam Fox. That wasn't their development. He developed on his own in two different organizations before he came over here. And then he turned out to be a star type defenseman. Keandre Miller was always a project. And that ended up not working out. And then Brady Shea was somebody that they developed who didn't work out in New York, sort of worked out in Carolina, but now he's not playing in that system, and he looks the way he looked at towards the end of his New York tenure in Nashville, just now paid $7 million per year to look that way. And I don't want to clown on Ortmeyer and Glass just because they were plugs at the NHL level, because it doesn't really matter. Like Gretzky was a terrible coach, best player ever, terrible coach. Joel Quenneville was not a great NHL player by any means. He's one of the best coaches ever. Al Arbor was not a great NHLer by any means. One of the best coaches ever. But you have two guys in that organization that have been there forever in those roles in development. And this team, during that time, has had terrible, little to no success developing players. What is the common denominator?
And then all they do is just bring in more guys, like I think you talked about Mark Stahl before, more guys that just don't have any experience in that regard. Because that's the other big thing, is that they don't bring in guys with experience. And this is why, like Matt's saying with the endless cycle, and like I said when the Rangers extended Igor, you're asking this organization to be pioneers in the cap era with two regards: to be the first team to win a cup in the cap era, building from the net out, and be the first team to build through free agency, like with their main core guys, build through free agencies, their core, and you could even argue through trades. to win a Stanley Cup, and it just does not happen in the Cap era. So you're asking them to be pioneers in two regards.
Yeah, and then even right here, like this comment that Nick said, they don't learn from their mistakes. And you know what? I know people will point to and say, oh, history, this and that. Just because one thing happened with this group, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to carry over into the next group. And listen, cool, I understand that, but history is important for this one thing, because when you make mistakes, the history is there to show you that, okay, we fucked up here, but when we go into this next situation, let's learn from that and not make the same mistake again. And like I said before, there were plenty of people around that watched the Lundqvist era, and especially the teams that came from 2011 to 2017. Sure, they made a couple deep runs. They got the 3 conference finals. They made it to a Stanley Cup final, but they didn't win anything. So tell me now, why are the same people that were complaining that they didn't win anything, especially after they paid Lundqvist so that they couldn't improve the roster after that, why are these the same people that are saying it didn't work the first time, but hey, here's a great idea. Let's lock up Igor Shesterkin, who is nowhere near the level and caliber that Henrik Lundqvist was. Because like we said before, apart from that 1 year in 21-22 where he won the Vezina Trophy and he put up stats that were comparable to Dominik Hasek, has he been able to replicate that in the regular season after that season? No, he's not.
And the funnier part about it also is your general manager played with Henrik Lundqvist through this era as well. That's just the most ironic part about the entire thing too.
Yeah, I mean that 07-08 team, that forward group was one of the best forward groups Lundqvist ever had in front of him. You had Yager, you had Gomez, you had Drury, you had Straka, Shanahan, who was aging. That was one of the better groups that Lundqvist had in front of him. I think the other forward group that sticks out to me that was great was probably the 2013 one, where they had Richards, Nash, Gaborik, Stepan, and Kreider was on that. I mean, he didn't play a lot of games because of injury, but I mean, he had two pretty good forward groups, but the defenses were not the greatest. The 07-08 defense had, Teuton, and I mean, Kasparidis was gone after 06-07, but Malik and Roosevelt were still the top pairing. Drury's first season there as a player. And then in the 2013 season, it was McDonough and Girardi, and then you had Stahl and Stroman, and Stahl, he was never the same after the eye injury, and the eye injury occurred in that 13 season. Like that, he was never the same player after that. He was already on the downside after the Eric concussion from 2011 that he got from his own brother. So it's you have to be able to build down the middle and build your defense up. And they just have not made the right moves, and you can't win when your goaltender is your best player. I'll say it over and over again, because none of these people who keep arguing for this contract that he got understand that you're not going to win this way. You overpaid this guy for no reason. No one was going. Yeah, a person who refuses to correct their errors is committing a new, greater mistake. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The Rangers have fooled themselves twice now with goalies. And people will point to Edmonton. Why can't Edmonton win? Edmonton can't win because their goaltenders are Swiss cheats. They're not passable. None of those goaltenders are even NHL average goaltenders. You're not winning with that. You can win with a Jordan Binnington, who knows how to play big when the big games come up. He's the closest thing we have to do a Billy Smith today. Billy Smith was a guy who didn't give a shit during the regular season. He didn't give a shit. He said, get me to the playoffs. And then what did he do? He went God mode in the playoffs. And that's why Edmonton couldn't beat the Islanders in 83.
And
Billy
again,
Smith
like,
was unbelievable.
yeah, and again, to your point, Phil, like, this is like the worst thing that I know sports fans do is that they go. It's never they can never look at something in the middle. It's either this extreme or that extreme. There's nothing ever in between. So just because the Oilers have shown that they can't win with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, that doesn't mean that you automatically have to go to the very next extreme of saying, "Oh, we have to overpay Igor Shesterkin and give him an $11.5 million contract." No, the history has clearly shown you that if you build a good enough team in front of you, you can win with Aiden Hill. You can win with Darcy Kemper. You can win with an aging Braden Holtby.
Look at
You
the
can
teams
win
in
2 cups with Matt Murray. You can win with Antti Niemi. You can win with Corey Crawford. You can win with Jordan Binnington. You can win with all these other goalies. So, again, all you need is competence.
And
Not
I
shit.
hate-
And not it's annoying.
And I hate to harp on the thing that we talk about all the time, but it just like because it happens all the time. But I just love how everyone's like, well, Bobrovsky's making 10 million, so Igor could make 11.5 million. Again, I don't want to go down the whole thing about it being revisionist history, but it's like, how dense do you have to be to not realize if Bobrovsky was making half the amount of money, or even if they had a different goalie making half the amount of money, they would still
They'd
be as good,
still
if
win.
not better, because they'd have more flexibility to build in front. And I'm telling you, once Bobrovsky's contract ends after this year, just wait and see what they're going to do.
Yeah. Oh, that team's going to be around for a very long time, provided there are no health issues with like Barkov and Kachuk going forward. And this is another thing, and I've said this several times. Like, he wasn't even the starter to get them into that 2023
Alex
playoff.
Lyon.
It was Alex Lyon, and that contract was considered the worst contract in the NHL for years.
I remember it felt like just yesterday. I remember Mark and I went back and forth a little bit, arguing between Trouba and Bobrovsky's contract being the worst in the NHL.
Yeah,
That was a conversation that didn't happen long ago.
Bobrovsky's not their best player. He's not even a top 3 or 4 most important player on that team.
You could argue and say he's not even top 10.
I don't know if I could go that far.
I can't go that far, yeah.
Oh, top 8, let's say.
So, all right. So name the 8 that you would, or 7 rather, if you're saying he's 8. Name the 7 you would put in front of him.
Kachuk,
Okay.
Barkov,
Yes.
Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Bennett, Forsling, Ekblad. I mean, those are your main key cornerstones on that
I
team.
would maybe push back on Ekblad a bit.
I don't know if I would push back on Ekblad. I if he's not healthy come playoff time, I don't know if they can win. You got to remember, he's their number 1 D. He's taking all their tough assignments.
Yeah, and even Marchand, too. Look how valuable Marchand was last year in the playoffs for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was insane value for them in the playoffs. You could say he was arguably their best forward.
Yeah, along with Sam Bennett.
I mean, yeah, Bennett because of the goals and everything like that. But Marchand, in terms of like generating offense and chances and everything like that, I would imagine that the analytics probably say that Marchand was a guy that arguably generated the most chances per 60 on his team.
I mean, even if you want to say, I know people will maybe push back on this because he's more of that depth role, but we always talk about it. In order to become a great team and to become a great cup contender, you need a strong center core down the middle. And Anton Lundell, he's arguably the best 3C in the league. So,
yeah.
and look how valuable he was last year come playoff time.
Marchand, 10 goals, 20 points in 23 games.
But again, this just shows you, like, we're having this discussion point. Look how deep their roster is in terms of forward core and then defensive core. Like,
their playoff scoring is historical.
Yeah.
Like you guys, like I don't think people understand like how good that the production was for that team. Like they had more players I think it was more 20-point players than like any team in history. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. They tied, I think, the 85 Oilers for the most 20-point players in NHL history on one postseason roster last year. 6. Luostarinen had 19 and Lundell had 18. You really think Bobrovsky was that important to that team? No.
Yeah. But
no.
But then, like I just mentioned, like with this discussion we're having right now, look how far it takes you. Look how far you have to go down the list before you even get to Bobrovsky. With the Rangers, Igor is probably right now, what, 3rd, 4th most important? And then when you compare that to Bobrovsky, where you're arguing he's 8th or 9th?
I would argue higher than 3rd or 4th with Igor. I mean, who are you putting ahead of him? I would. The only guy I would argue is Fox. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that's really it. Because he's the guy that's going to keep the puck out of the defensive zone and try to get some level of offense. But it's not that they signed team-friendly deals. It's that they were reclamation projects that went there and had massive years. Like, so Verhaeghe, Reinhart, and Forsling were making in 2023-24, they made a combined less than $14 million against the cap.
Insane.
Like, you're not getting that in New York, so you can't go and pay the goaltender $11.5 million and expect to get that type of contract out of those players. State taxes, yes, have something to do with it.
And, I mean, we talked about before, too, that Reinhardt even is not the same player that he is if he's not there, and he's playing well above what his contract is.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So I don't think he's a 58-goal player or 57-goal player anymore. Like, I think that's just 24.5% is completely unsustainable. That's why I think the Capitals are going to regress big time. One of the TSN panels said that they predict Washington to miss the playoffs. I forget who it was. But you can find the bold predictions TSN video on YouTube. And I forget who it was that said it, though. I think it was wasn't it Glennon? No, it was Marty Biron. Sorry, Marty Biron said it. I'm sorry. Former friend of the show, by the way. Check out our interview with him. But he said that they were going to regress because, you had too many guys having career years. And yes, Sam Reinhart regressed from a 24.5 to an 18.3 shooting percentage. That's a 6.2% drop. He went from 57 goals to 39 goals. That's a massive, massive drop with 6%. And the crazy part is that Sam Reinhart is still a regression candidate again this year because 18% is still extremely high.
Yeah, but I mean, like we were saying, like that whole team, that whole mentality, that whole core, they get the best out of each other. And for whatever reason, whether it's Paul Maurice, who I'm sure plays a major impact in that, whether it's, like I said, the leadership group on that team, like you said, Phil, multiple times, those guys, whenever they enter that locker room, especially the new guys, you leave your egos at the door and you buy into whatever that system is, and you buy into whatever that, that culture, that thing that they have right there. And that's why, because you even look at the contract. I mean, like, even for Sam Reinhart, he's getting paid $8.625 million a year. I mean, again, that's worth the production he's putting up. And I get that was from what you said, from what, 57 goals that he scored?
57 goals, yeah.
57 down to 39. I mean, listen, it's a drop off, but still, like, 39 goals. I mean, it's pretty good. 1 goal under 40.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying, like, what I'm trying to say is that he got that type of deal, and he got that after putting up a 57-goal season, 8.625. You're not getting that in New York.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So it's you're not getting that in New York, and even if he's 35 to 40 goals a year, 8.625 is more than commensurate for that. There are guys that score 40 goals a year or so that are making well more than that. Well more than that.
You have Artemi Panarin begging to get 10 million at least on his next contract.
Yeah, go scratch, please. So we can re-sign an old player that's going to be 35 weeks after that next season starts next year to not show in the playoffs, even if they somehow make the playoffs. And he gets paid $10 million a year. You want to come back at like 6 or 7? Cool. Let's talk. But you want 10 million as a 35-year-old, and then you probably want multiple years on top of that? No thanks.
And trade
Trade him at the
protection as well.
deadline, please.
Yeah, and this is what I said because we know. I mean, and I know people say, "Oh, it's only one game." It's not one game. It's 6 years. It's 6 years of this garbage and this bullshit that we've put up with this core. Because we know that this team is not going to be good at the trade deadline. And like I said, I'm not letting him walk in free agency for nothing. And I don't want him back. I don't care what the contract is. I don't care what the cap hit is. I don't want him back at all. He sets the wrong mentality in that locker room, and he's rubbed off with too many poor habits on too many players. So when we get to the trade deadline, like I said, you better trade his ass for the best package available. And I don't give a shit if the locker room's going to cry and say, oh, no, we can't lose our Artemi Panarin. No. We're running a business here. Because the last 2 years have been absolute shit shows. And you guys failed to bring the ultimate objective, which is bringing the Stanley Cup back to New York. And like I said, when there's failures, there's consequences. And if you don't like that, then don't play professional sports. It is what it is. So like I said, when we get to the trade deadline, trade his ass. And get the best package you can in return. And thank you, David.
Yeah, I even agree with what Jay Lewis was saying.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even want
I
back.
I would have, yeah.
I didn't even see that. I agree with that too. But I'm gonna get going now, guys.
I'm gonna give you all right. So we'll wrap this up, but I'll give you guys one quick little game here. I'm gonna give you a player, and I'm gonna read you some stat lines, and I want you to guess who this player is. So this player in the last 3 seasons has had seasons of 40 goals and 87 points, 40 goals and 98 points, and 45 goals and 84 points. What player do you think that is? There's a reason for this, by the way. It's in relation to what we were talking about just before. If that gives you a clue. Okay, so I'll repeat it because it's Dave is asking. So 2023, 40 goals, 47 assists, 87 points. 2024, 40 goals, 58 assists, 98 points. 2025, 45 goals, 39 assists, 84 points. All 3 years he played 82 games. No, it's not Pastrnak. Pastrnak had a 100-goal season in there, 100-point season in there. Actually, 2 100-point seasons. And he had a 60-goal season in there. So that's not Pastrnak.
If you give us the conference, we'll give it away.
Just for the sake of not dragging it out too long, he's in the East.
East.
I think if I give the AAV, no, Eastern Conference, and Kopitar has never had a 40-goal season as far as I know. Oh, he nailed it. Oh, Brian nailed it.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
You cheeky fuck, you. You cheeky fuck. He Billy Corgan'd it. Yeah, the reason I bring that up is because Nylander's cap hit, 11.5 million. Very close to Panarin's. and he's a 40-goal guy. So, like, this is what you might be paying for a 40-goal scorer outside of Florida. You know what? I bet Billy Corgan definitely scouting Nylander. I heard he invented hockey. I heard he invented sliced bread too, actually, but that's another story. But yeah, just kind of a little fun little exercise because I know Steven likes doing them. I actually like doing them as well, just because it's fun to mess around with them. But like, you have that type of production out of Reinhart. You're not getting that in New York. Like, people that continue to say, why can't we do what Florida does? Well, Florida has an advantage. Florida also has a winning organization where the players check their ego at the door, they buy in, they show up, they bring their lunch pails, and they play hockey the right way. We don't have that in New York. Like, it's like Yankees fans, and I say that as one. We're the Yankees logic doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. We're the Rangers, we're the original 6 team. That doesn't work. Yes, Nick, they have a good leadership group that sets great examples. Not even good examples, great examples. Okay, so what do? They bring in Brad Marchand to an already great leadership group. They bring in a guy that fits like a glove. He's a fucking rat. He gets under everyone else's skin, and he knows how to win. He knows how to win. He won a World Cup of hockey. He won a Stanley Cup. He's been to another Stanley Cup Finals. He's had a 100-point season. Guy's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame. But
and also, let's not forget with the whole Brad Marchand point, no one in that locker room holds agendas either, because remember, if you recall back to the 2023-24 playoffs, when the Panthers played the Bruins in the second round, was it Sam Bennett, or was it the other way around? But Sam Bennett sucker punched Brad Marchand in the back of the head. Yeah. And then the Panthers bring in Brad Marchand to trade deadline last year, and then all of a sudden, Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett are best friends. And everything's fine, and it's like nothing's ever happened before. But again, this goes back to this whole thing of, like you said, when you go into that locker room, you leave your ego at the door and you buy in. And if you don't want to buy in, then don't come here. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's why I think there's a country club locker room environment here. That's why I think we're close to the dark ages. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're getting there. If this doesn't change, something is really wrong behind the scenes. Something is really wrong. Something is very, very wrong there. But Lonnie, no, Jason Robertson, I don't think he's going anywhere. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. I don't think he's going anywhere. So, but thank you all for joining us. Appreciate it. This wasn't supposed to be a 2-hour stream, and ended up being a 2-hour stream. So join us all tomorrow. We'll be on, I think, around like 1 o'clock. We'll be doing our weekly show, and you can listen to more rants from us. Anthony will probably weigh in, and he'll probably laugh at about how terrible this team is. I know that he'll be looking forward to Matthew Schaefer's debut. But, yeah, we'll be on tomorrow. Thank you again, Matt. Appreciate it, as always. And to Evan as well, and to my captain, Mark Williams, for gutting it out as long as he could. So he'll be working on everything, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Again, thank you all. Hopefully I'll be able to do a little more of these this season. But, yes. So thank you all, and have a great night.
You guys.